There are places that collect stories. Whispers passed from one generation to the next, details changing like the shifting waters of the Red Cedar River. Some of these stories are nothing more than old campfire tales. Others have a way of sticking with you. I've heard my share of odd stories since moving to town. Strange noises from the lake at night, the occasional rustling in the woods that stops the moment you listen too closely. But those are just sounds, easy to explain away. The story I came across one autumn evening was different. It wasn't just a vague noise in the dark. It was something physical, something you could supposedly see, if you knew where to look. I first heard about the fireman's suit over coffee, from a friend who had spent more years in this town than I had. He spoke casually, the way you do when sharing an odd bit of trivia. Just something he had overheard once, nothing serious. But the details stuck with me. Somewhere in the woods near Downsville, not far from Pleasant Valley Cemetery, there was an old abandoned fireman's suit. No one knew where it had come from, and no one had ever managed to find it during the day. It only appeared at night. That was the strange part. You could walk the trails and access roads all afternoon and find nothing. But after sunset, if you knew where to look, the suit would be there, propped against a tree, waiting. I'm not originally from this area, so I don't know every back road and hunting trail the way some do. Before I went looking for the suit at night, I figured I'd find the place during the day, to get my bearings, so I wouldn't get turned around in the dark. I drove out toward Downsville, winding along quiet roads past fields already starting to brown with the season. The turnoff to the old access road was easy enough to find, though I'd be hard-pressed to describe exactly where it was, one of those places that just blends into the trees. I walked the trail for a while, noting landmarks, an old fence post, a fallen tree, a clearing that might have been used for hunting at some point. But no sign of the suit, no evidence that anything out of the ordinary had ever been here. Satisfied that I knew the way, I headed home, making plans to return when the sun had set. Days passed before I had the chance to return. Rain had turned the roads to mud, and by the time the weather cleared, I almost reconsidered making the trip. The access road was in worse shape than I remembered. Deep ruts had formed, and my tires struggled for traction as I made my way down. Then just off the road I saw it. A shape, slumped against a tree. From the driver's seat it looked exactly like what had been described to me. A dark, heavy mass. Arms slack at its sides. I parked and stepped out, crunching through wet leaves toward it. But as I got closer, the illusion fell apart. It wasn't a fireman's suit at all, just a rolled-up piece of foam, wedged against the tree like it had been blown in from somewhere. I exhaled, half amused, half disappointed. Maybe that was the source of the rumor, a trick of the light, a shadow playing against the trees. Still, I searched a little longer, wandering up and down the access road, waiting for something, anything, to stand out. But there was nothing, just an empty trail and the rustling of the wind through the trees. I told myself I wasn't surprised. Rumors have a way of taking on lives of their own, shifting and growing until the original story is unrecognizable. I had come out looking for something, and in the end, I had found exactly what I should have expected. Nothing. But as I slid back into my car and turned the key, something odd happened. The engine didn't turn over, not right away. That wasn't normal. My car has never had trouble starting. I turned the key again, listening as the engine struggled for a breath. It was then that I noticed something else. The woods around me had gone silent. No wind, no animals, just an unnatural, pressing stillness. Then with a sputter, the car came to life. As soon as the engine roared, the world returned with it. Wind whispering through the trees, an owl somewhere in the distance. Just a moment of quiet, that's all. Nothing more than my imagination filling in the gaps. Still, I didn't linger. I backed onto the road and headed home, leaving the story and the foam behind. Sometimes that's just how these stories go. Not every rumor leads to some grand discovery. Sometimes a shadow is just a shadow, a sound in the night is just the wind. And sometimes there's something you missed. Something just outside your field of vision, waiting for the right moment to be seen.